The wind howled across the dusty street of Redwood Valley the moment the cowboy stumbled into town, bleeding, exhausted, and chased by something far darker than bandits. His horse collapsed at the trough, and he barely whispered for help before the world around him went black. When he opened his eyes, he wasn't in a sheriff's jail or a doctor's office. He was inside a tribal healing hut. The scent of burning sage hung in the air, and a young woman with long braided hair and green fringed clothing pressed a cool cloth to his forehead. Her eyes were sharp, too sharp, like she already knew something he didn't. Before he could speak, the hut's curtain rustled. An older woman entered, her presence commanding silence. She wore a traditional grey dress, her silver braid running down her shoulder like a river of wisdom. Her stare pierced him. "Cowboy," she said, "you crossed death's door." "Why?" He swallowed. "Someone's hunting me. Someone who ain't supposed to be alive." The old woman's eyes didn't widen, but the girl's did. Before he could explain, she leaned in closer, whispering something in her mother's ear. But he caught enough to know she recognized the name he mentioned. That alone sent chills through him. Hours later, when he stepped outside into the village, the old woman approached him again, this time with a determined look. "I heard you want a wife," she said boldly. He nearly choked. "Mom, I ain't looking. My daughter," she interrupted, pointing to the young woman from the hut, "is perfect for you." The girl didn't step back. She didn't blush. She stared at him with a kind of intensity he had never seen in a woman before. But something felt wrong. The older woman wasn't offering. She was insisting. Before he could respond, she stepped closer and whispered, "You were not chased by a man, but by a shadow from your past." His heart froze. How did she know? The old woman continued, "The hunter is coming. He won't stop. And if you don't marry my daughter, you won't live to see sunrise." "What does marriage have to do with survival?" he demanded. The girl finally spoke for the first time. Her voice was calm, but her words were terrifying. "Because I am the only one who can protect you from the thing you brought here." A cold fear gripped his spine. The old woman stepped back, letting the truth settle like dust. "You think you understand danger? You don't. Not yet." The cowboy looked at the girl, her warrior posture, her calm breaths, her eyes that glowed like embers. "What are you?" he whispered. She smiled just slightly. "Your only chance." And before he could argue, a distant scream echoed from the far end of the village, something inhuman, something searching. The old woman pointed at him sharply. "Choose now, cowboy. Your life depends on it." The scream echoed again, long, broken, and filled with something that didn't belong to any human throat. The cowboy's hand slipped instinctively to his revolver, but the old woman shook her head sharply. "That won't help you. Guns can't kill what hunts you." The young woman, her name, he now learned, was Lena, stepped forward, her green fringed dress swaying like the leaves of a forest tree. Her fingers brushed the ground, feeling the earth, as if listening to footsteps no one else could hear. "He's close," she murmured. The cowboy felt cold sweat trickle down his spine. "How do you even know who's after me?" Lena rose to her full height, her eyes locking with his. "Because the same creature once hunted our tribe." Before he could react, she grabbed his wrist with surprising strength and pulled him behind a wooden hut. The old woman followed quickly, whispering chants under her breath. Through the cracks, he saw a tall silhouette dragging something across the dirt, a body, and then the creature's head turned as if sniffing the air. His blood ran cold. It was the same man, no, the same monster that had chased him across 3 territories, a man who shouldn't be alive, a man he watched fall off a canyon ridge, a man who had stopped screaming halfway down. Yet here he stood, skin pale as death, eyes hollow, mouth twisted in a cruel, unnatural grin. The cowboy whispered, panic trembling in his throat. "That thing ain't human." Lena finished the sentence for him. "No, he belongs to the spirits of the lost." He turned to her, anger rising. "Why didn't you tell me this earlier?" "Because you wouldn't have believed," she said without blinking, "and because you needed to see the truth for yourself." The old woman tugged Lena's arm. "We must hurry." She reached into a leather pouch and pulled out a string made of braided animal sinew, decorated with beads and carved symbols. She shoved it toward the cowboy. "Take it." "What is it?" he asked. "Your marriage band." He recoiled. "Ma'am, I'm not marrying nobody." Lena cut him off. "If you don't, he will find you. And when he does, everything you love will turn to ashes. The spirit that controls him hunts only those unprotected." The cowboy swallowed hard. "So marriage protects me." "Marriage to a spirit-bound warrior," Lena corrected. "To me." He looked into her eyes, deep, fierce, unwavering. There was no fear in them, only certainty. The ground trembled. The creature was getting closer. The old woman grabbed their hands and pressed them together. "Speak the vow," she urged. But before the cowboy could speak a word, a shadow fell over them. The creature stood at the entrance of the alley, head tilted, smile wide, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment. Lena whispered in a voice colder than winter itself, "If you want to live, cowboy, say the words." The creature's shadow swallowed the narrow alleyway, its grin stretching unnaturally wide as it stepped closer. The cowboy's hand trembled inside Lena's grip, but she squeezed tighter, her strength far beyond what he expected from someone her size. "Say the vow!" the old woman hissed, but his throat locked. This wasn't just marriage. This was binding himself to something far older, deeper, and dangerous than he understood. The creature inhaled sharply, sniffing him out like prey. "You ran far," it rasped, voice like dry leaves scraping stone, "but you can't outrun your fate." The cowboy drew his revolver with lightning speed and fired. The bullet hit the creature cleanly between the eyes, then clinked as if it struck metal. The monster didn't even blink. Instead, it dragged a long finger over its forehead where the bullet bounced off. "You still don't understand," it whispered. Lena stepped in front of the cowboy, body tense, eyes glowing faintly. "She is protected. You are not." The creature lunged. The cowboy was thrown backward, air torn from his lungs as Lena met the monster mid-air, slamming it into the dirt with a force that shook the ground. The old woman started chanting, a deep, rhythmic spell that vibrated through the earth. Lena pinned the creature, pressing her palm against its chest. A burning light spread from her hand, forcing the monster to writhe and scream, an inhuman, piercing sound that cracked the air. "Now!" the old woman cried. "Speak the vow now!" The cowboy staggered to his feet. His heart thundered. He looked at Lena, holding the monster with her bare hands, face twisted in effort, sweat dripping, trying to keep him alive. He knew what he had to do. He pressed his hand over his heart and shouted, "I bind my life to hers, my steps, my breath, my fate. Let no spirit take me while she stands." The air exploded. A shockwave radiated from Lena and the cowboy, blasting dust into a swirling storm. The creature shrieked as if burned by fire. The old woman's chanting rose louder, matching the storm's roar. Lena's eyes snapped open, now glowing bright gold. She whispered a single word, "Enough." A beam of golden energy erupted from her palm, slicing through the monster's chest. It convulsed, withered, and collapsed to ash in seconds, the scream fading into the wind. Silence fell. The cowboy collapsed to one knee, gasping. Lena stood over him, the glow in her eyes fading, her breath unsteady. "You're safe now," she whispered. The old woman approached, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You are married in the eyes of the spirits. The bond is sealed." The cowboy looked up at Lena, stunned. "Does that mean you're my wife now?" Lena gave a soft, tired smile. "Only if you choose to stay." He swallowed, slowly reaching for her hand. After all you've done, I ain't going nowhere." The old woman smirked. Good, because she wasn't saving just your life. They both looked at her. She was saving your destiny. The dust settled. The valley grew quiet again, and the bond that saved his life was only the beginning of their story.